Hello, listener. This is Suyana with Chapter 28 from the All-Inclusive Approach entitled My Journey into the Void. Before consciousness, there was the void. From the void, consciousness arose. Once consciousness came into being, the void ceased to exist. Infinite potential rushed in to fill the void. Consciousness was aware, and eternity became its companion. There is no returning to a time before consciousness, for there is no time. Eternity is timeless, and there is no space, because consciousness permeates all existence. As part of the greater consciousness, you are eternal. And as an eternal being, you are forever evolving in ways both imaginable and far beyond what you can comprehend. Why? Why is not the most useful of questions once you realize your existence has no end and actually no beginning. There was nothing, and then consciousness existed. For an eternal being, the more pertinent questions are, how will I engage and interact with eternity? Will I strive for a goal that once reached affords me the privilege of relaxing into that achievement forever? Or will I continuously create new ways to experience and know myself, never reaching a final destination, always evolving? If I accept this eternal nature, will I commit to helping all aspects of myself remember their divine essence? Will I devote myself to reminding these aspects of the peace available on this path of evolution? I am. I am that I am. And how can you trust this? How can you trust me? How can you trust that what I am sharing has any validity if you haven't experienced it directly yourself? Who am I to you, really? Well, I'm one of your companions in reality, in eternity. Though we may never meet in person, we are part of the same soul family, connected beyond time and space. I am the one who loves and appreciates you exactly as you are. I believe in your ability to move through conditions which create separation within you to embody the oneness that is your true nature. I trust that your process is unfolding beautifully and is fully supported. I see you as you truly are, even when you cannot. I am your companion, your beloved friend, a confidant, a fellow traveler. While I may need reminding from time to time, I am the one who remembers that you are an eternal fractal of perfection. And so, I wish to share a story with you. At a certain point in my journey, I sat with a Colombian female shaman in an intimate patio setting at a friend's house in Costa Rica. We were a group of 7 women participating in a sacred ceremony with the plant medicine ayahuasca, known as yahe in these circles. The shaman, who had just completed a 6-day women's retreat, invited a few blessed women to join her for this special ceremony before she returned home. Female shamans serving this medicine are rare, very rare in this culture. However, the all-female circle proved to be the perfect setting for my transcendent experience, so I am forever grateful. What I experienced that night shifted my awareness profoundly and required over a year of deep inner work to integrate and embody. I share this story as a reminder of how a single moment can carry you from the way you were to the way you are in a heartbeat. It was a warm evening on the edge of the Costa Rican forests. The ceremony space was tucked under my beloved friend's patio overhang. We would enjoy the sights of the colorful garden in the morning, But tonight her space was scarcely illuminated by candlelight. Each woman settled into her chosen space, preparing for the night's journey. Some were new to Yahweh, while others had sat with it multiple times. A mix of excitement and apprehension hung in the air as we acknowledged the power and potency of these plants. Having participated in a handful of ceremonies during my time in Costa Rica, my fears had matured into respect. I had developed deep reverence for this medicine and those called to serve it. This path is not an easy one. People come to ceremonies in the midst of awakenings after great loss, seeking relief from depression or hopelessness, to escape reality, and more. The shamans who hold these circles carry immense responsibility, knowing the sacredness of their role. They spend months brewing the medicine, infusing it with prayers and intentions, and often risk much to share it with others. I felt profoundly grateful to be there, knowing the care and devotion that went into creating this opportunity. That gratitude enveloped any fear of the unknown, grounding me in the blessing I was now receiving. The setting was simple and practical. An open-air patio, soft lighting, buckets for purging, and tissues placed nearby. Each woman prepared her space with personal items to ensure comfort. I brought a small mattress, as my back issues made sitting upright all night difficult. A meditation chair rested at the top of my mattress, surrounded by blankets, shawls, and a pillow. Other participants brought items they held sacred: precious stones, feathered fans, ceremonial tools. My own sacred objects included a perfume gifted by my friend hosting that evening, a smooth stone I liked to hold, and essentials like thick socks, more tissues, and a hair tie. Before the ceremony began, I was called to consult with the shaman. This was a time to share my intentions, ask questions, and receive any insights she might offer before we drank the first cup. I explained through my dear friend who acted as the interpreter that my intention was to learn the quality of trust. Trust in myself, trust in life, trust in the process of being alive here and now. Basically, trust in everything. The shaman listened, smiled, and raised her eyebrows as if to say, "That's a sizable topic to explore." She offered her blessings and a few words to prepare me for the journey ahead. As I returned to my mattress, a wave of insecurity washed over me. I wondered if I had bitten off more than I could chew with my lofty intention. Then another thought emerged. This insecurity is the perfect beginning to unravel everything within me that does not trust. I sat down and prepared for the ceremony to begin. After each woman had spoken with the shaman, we waited to be called up for the first cup of Yahweh. Every brew is slightly different, some bitter, pungent, and thick, others with a hint of sweetness followed by a sour aftertaste. Some are so intense they leave you wondering if you're already purging before the ceremony even begins. Yet regardless of taste or texture, all contain the powerful substance DMT, often called the God molecule. The first cup I drank that night was slightly sweet with the consistency of maple syrup. It was relatively uneventful, which was not uncommon for me in previous ceremonies. I experienced mild nausea and, as the night deepened, drifted into a light sleep. My dreams were vivid and symbolic. I dreamt of being a servant, unaware of my master or my purpose. All I knew was that my role was to serve. I awoke to an invitation for the second cup. The shaman asked if I had purged. I said no. She asked if I had had any visions. Again, I said no. Finally, she asked if I wanted a stronger cup. I nodded and said yes. After drinking, I decided to visit the bathroom before returning to my spot. By the time I stood up from the toilet, the medicine had taken hold. The room began to shift. The flush button on the toilet seemed impossibly far away, as though my arm had to stretch across a football field to reach it. The floor appeared to dissolve beneath me, and I reminded myself, the floor is still there. Wash your hands. Get back to your mattress. What should have been a simple walk felt like an epic journey. Every step became an act of trust that the ground would support me, that my legs would carry me, that I wouldn't collapse, and if I did, trust that someone would assist me. Each step was deliberate, a testament of my intention. By the time I reached the circle, a helper guided me back to my mattress. Disoriented and detached from my body, I tried to sit, then lie down, and then sit again. Nothing felt right. Then the first vision came. A male shaman appeared, his presence commanding yet gentle. In my mind, I heard his voice. Your distrust of things creates disrespect in your mind. Overwhelmed by the weight of his words, I found myself kneeling, my forehead pressed to the mattress in prayer. I asked for forgiveness. His voice returned. There is nothing to forgive. You did not know. Now you must know, so you may trust again. The vision deepened. I was shown how my lack of trust had manifested as fear, disrespect, judgment, and inner conflict. Symbols and memories emerged to guide me toward the higher perception I sought. Helpers appeared, offering healing, but I whispered, I am with them. Taita, another word for shaman, is here. And they stepped back. He revealed that my distrust had extended to the female shaman leading the ceremony that night. That was why he came, to bridge the gap I had created. And then he was gone. Still kneeling, I wept. I wept for my ignorance, my innocence, and the disconnection I had carried my entire life. I realized I had never truly trusted anyone because deep down I didn't see myself as worthy of love. The sadness was profound, a reflection of the inner void I had long ignored. I purged and cried, releasing what felt like lifetimes of pain. Hours passed. My body was drained, my mind emptied, and my senses were heightened. Everything seemed to function in slow motion. Helpers came to remind me of my intention. Remember to breathe. You asked to trust, one said softly as she fanned me with feathers and brought me back to the circle with the scent of her sacred perfume. I lay motionless on my mattress, unable to move, when a profound peacefulness settled over me. And then there was nothing. I had entered the void. In the void there was no body, no sensation, no breath, no thought, nothing. It was devoid of everything, no sound, no objects, no space. In this absence I had no sense of self. Only later, upon returning to something other than the void, could I account for my journey there. I cannot tell you how long this experience lasted, as there was no time. At some point, however, I became consciousness itself. I experienced the moment the void transformed into something, and that something was awareness. The instant I became aware that I was consciousness, I understood there was no going back. Awareness had arisen, and with it the concept of self. The void was no longer possible because it had given birth to awareness. I saw the helpers tend to my body, speaking prayers and encouraging me to sip water. I understood that this was their turn to serve, to embody their higher wisdom, and to act in alignment with their purpose. It became clear to me that we all take turns, sometimes as the one reminding, and sometimes as the one being reminded. Forgetfulness, I realized, was just as sacred, an expression of the divine as remembrance. Both served as vital components of the evolutionary process, propelling consciousness forward. Neither superior, the collaborative dynamic was a partnership of equals that created infinite benefit to all. In the morning, a dear friend told me I kept laughing and saying throughout the night, "Oh shit, what now? Oh shit, now what?" Resting in that state of consciousness, I remember wondering, what do we create now? Now that I know myself as consciousness, what do I wish to create? Now that I know myself as eternal, what do I wish to do with that eternity? It seemed to me that this was the same inquiry that consciousness had, which preceded and created all things. At one point, it seemed as though I could remain in this timeless state forever. I even felt that the ceremony could not conclude until I chose to rejoin the realm of time and space. When this thought surfaced, the ceremony's settings began to materialize around me. I saw the sun shining over the trees, remembering my son and thoughts of my friends. My earthly awareness returned. I was exiting the void. Then the final piece of wisdom was gifted to me before I was completely returned. This is what you wished to create. This is what you chose to do with eternity. This is how consciousness exists, in this place, with these people, through your deeds, and as you. For days afterward, I found myself remembering to remember. I spoke with close friends about my experience, sharing how trust became a natural byproduct of remembering. I comforted them with the understanding that we are all either remembering or reminding others to remember. I still recall vividly the look of awe in their eyes as they listened to the wisdom I shared. Some friends resonated deeply, recalling glimpses of their own true nature. Others expressed longing, wishing for a similar profound experience. Regardless, we shared a connection in our mutual appreciation of this journey, a journey that appeared to venture into the void, yet ultimately reminded us that we are already home in our eternal consciousness. Months later, I returned to the United States with my son and began reintegrating into a culture vastly different from the intentional community I had left in Costa Rica. We reconnected with family and embarked on a 3.5-month-long road trip from the Carolinas to Washington State and back. This journey became a profound period of integration for me. At each stop, we spent a few days with friends or family, enjoying their company, sharing stories, inspiring new perspectives in some, and challenging the beliefs of others with my experiences and philosophies. Without exception, after leaving each place, I would burst into tears. The transition from heart-centered, mindful interactions in Costa Rica to the protective, mind-oriented norms of my upbringing felt raw and challenging. The road trip became a space for mourning, the loss of my conditioned self, and the safety of my old paradigm. There was no returning to who I'd been. The powerful insights I'd received had cracked me open to my infinite nature. Now I had to relearn how to be in the world, how to interact with others, how to be myself, and how to engage authentically with the ever-changing reality around me. I had to cultivate the strength to face the world as it was, not as I wished it to be. Through this process, I came to terms with the reality of eternity and embraced it as my true nature. I didn't realize it then, but I was letting go of the relief I thought I was going to experience at some point when the becoming finally stopped. When all the striving, desiring, hoping, dreaming, wishing, and intending did finally cease, and I was able to achieve a lasting peace. This, I would discover from a teacher named Matt Kahn, was the process of integrating the ego, the individuated sense of self. In his book, Everything is Here to Help You, and through his videos, he emphasizes the usefulness of the ego rather than the need to eliminate it. He championed the idea of fully embracing and celebrating the journey of self-realization. His teachings were a vital resource as I aligned with the totality of my infinite nature and reintegrated myself back into the culture of the United States. And I experienced it all through the finite character I call me. I am that I am. This experience was so precious to me. I recall it at least once a day, and it happened 8 or 9 years ago at this point. Not because it was out of the ordinary, not necessarily out of the ordinary. I've had many epiphanies. I've had many realizations, and I continue to have them. But to have a moment, however long it was to my mind, to exist in the void, in the pre-awareness state, it was like a rebirth. It gave me context to understand why we are motivated to have our desires fulfilled. And when we are outside of the survival mentality and paradigm that's so prevalent here and now, how pure and inspired those desires are. It's our nature to create, to evolve, to develop, to expand, to experience. It is the way that we navigate and experience our eternal nature, which is our true nature. And it's something I wish for everyone to touch at some point in their existence. And I believe that we all will. To be able to experience it while still embodied in a singular lifetime was a wonderful blessing. And I carry it with me always. And I've shared it with you as a remembrance, because we all came from the same place. We are all of the one consciousness, and we'll all remember that, all of us. It is inevitable. At least that's my experience. Let's go ahead and dive right into Chapter 28's reflection and journal prompts. This was one of the most profound experiences of my life. When I drank with this female shaman, it was so rare to have an opportunity to be in a women's only circle. You might have a group of women who are drinking with a male taita or shaman, but it was very rare that you would have a female shaman from what I had been exposed to and the knowledge that I had about this tradition. So it was a very special night in and of itself, but then to have such an expansive experience, it really anchored in this idea that I had had at that point in my life where I was really designed to embody and articulate to the world this feminine approach of inclusion and receptivity, not as a passive quality, but as a very dynamic quality. And I have been doing that ever since. And that ceremony was in 2017, I believe, 2018, right around there. So the reflection for this journal prompt is as follows. This chapter explores the space beyond identity. The void is not emptiness in a negative sense. It is a potential before form. It is the silence before thought, the stillness before becoming. It is the reminder that who you are is not limited to your personality, your story, or your circumstances. Moments of ego dissolution, whether through stillness, grief, awe, birth, ceremony, or crisis, offer glimpses of your eternal nature. They can feel disorienting. They can feel expansive. They can feel like death and rebirth happening simultaneously. The lesson of the void is not escape, just like the lesson of receptivity isn't passiveness. The lesson of the void is integration. The lesson of receptivity is willingness. You do not visit eternity to leave your humanity. You return so you can inhabit it more consciously. Trust deepens when you realize there is no falling out of existence. There's no failing. There is only remembering. The journal prompts for this chapter are 1. The void in my own life has shown up as, and a few follow-up questions to that is, what did it strip away? What did it reveal? Number 2, a moment when I felt beyond my usual identity was, And a follow-up question to that, how did that experience change me? Number 3, if I truly trusted the intelligence of life, I would stop worrying about fill in the blank. Number 4, where in my life am I still gripping or forcing instead of floating and flowing? And number 5, if I am both the one who forgets and the one who remembers, what does that mean about my journey? I don't know if you recall in the book, but I define those things as both the very important qualities of our existence. When I was in the ceremony, I was very clear that when one of the women that was participating as one of the healers or helpers came to work on me, that's how they call it, where they're kind of trying to help you through something, that she was trying to be in the role of the rememberer. She was attempting to embody her remembrance and her authority to trust her inner promptings. And while it wasn't necessarily something that I was needing in that moment, what I was giving her was a chance to be the remembrance for me. And I was watching it so clearly, I can remember it like it's happening right now, that I was gifting her the chance to be remembrance in that moment for me. And while I was watching all of it, it made the forgetfulness feel so honorable and important and valuable to all of us, to consciousness itself. The joy of remembering comes from a state of forgetfulness. And so you get this lovely ebb and flow, this dynamic give and take, back and forth energy that propels us forward in many ways. And it gives us context to our experience. So when you are in a state of forgetfulness and you awaken or come into a state of remembrance for whatever reason, I invite you to be grateful for both states. Not condemn yourself for forgetting again, not berating yourself or belittling yourself or constantly questioning and figuring out how you can avoid it in the future. Because it's a natural unfolding. It develops through non-resistance, this sustained state of remembrance. So the more you can appreciate the parts of you that forget, the more you can honor them as valuable assets and aspects of self, more gently and consistently you will move into sustained states of remembrance. At least that's been my experience and what I've observed in people who are going through this process. The exercise accompanying this chapter is called the Conscious Observer Practice. You will set aside 10 minutes, sit comfortably, close your eyes. Instead of trying to quiet your thoughts, simply observe them. Notice a thought arises, an emotion surfaces, a sensation appears. Whatever comes up, ask gently, who is aware of this? Shift your attention from the content of your experience to the awareness behind it. Rest there, breathe into it, observe. If thoughts pull you back into the story, into your identity, into what does this really mean, gently return to the observer. Afterward, journal. Did I experience a gap between myself and my thoughts? Did I sense spaciousness? What did that feel like? This is the doorway the void reveals, awareness without attachment. Additional practical exercises for remembrance are 1. Trust in action. Each morning, choose one small thing to trust. It could be trusting that your body knows how to breathe, that the day will unfold as it needs to go, or that you are guided in ways unseen. Throughout the day, when doubt arises, remind yourself, I trust everything is unfolding for my highest good. At night, reflect on how trust influenced your experience. The second exercise is called sitting with the void. It's similar to the first one. You'll set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes, find a quiet place to sit, close your eyes, and focus on nothing. Let go of thoughts, expectations, and interpretations. Simply be. If thoughts arise, allow them to pass without attachment. Afterward, journal about how it felt to sit in stillness and if any insights emerged. Additionally, journal about what it feels like when you cannot find the silence and the stillness. Let those emotions and those judgments and those beliefs that you have about yourself come to the surface. Put them on the paper. The third exercise is called the observer's perspective. Practice observing yourself as consciousness rather than reacting as your personality. When something triggers you, pause and ask, what is this moment teaching me? Who is the observer of this experience? Write down any shifts in perspective that occur. Number 4 is called remembering and reminding. In this, you'll reflect on a time when someone reminded you of your power, worth, or divinity. Then think of a moment when you reminded someone else of their strength or wisdom. Journal about what it feels like to be both the one who remembers and the one who reminds. It's also really helpful with this to notice any resistance that you have when people are giving you confirmation of those things, of your worthiness, of your value. Exercise number 5 is called engaging with eternity. Imagine you are an eternal being, which you are, experiencing this life as part of an infinite journey. Ask yourself, if I fully accepted my eternal nature, how would I live differently? What would I stop worrying about? How would I treat this moment? Write a letter to your future self, offering guidance from this eternal perspective. And then if you need a reminder, go read your letter to your future self. You can pick any one of these exercises. You can focus on one or two of them throughout a few weeks and then move on to another exercise. It's really up to you what you feel called to do. But all of this is about putting these concepts into practice in your daily life. The affirmations for trust and surrender are, I trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. I am safe in the unknown. I welcome the wisdom of the present moment. I surrender to the intelligence of life. I embrace my eternal nature with ease and grace. I am both the student and the teacher in this journey. I release the need to control and trust the flow of existence. Everything is happening for my highest good, even when I cannot see it yet. And again, if any of those affirmations feel in any way passive to you, it is very helpful to sit with the concept of receptivity and start to flush out the idea that it is passive, that it is happening to you. It's easy to kind of fall into the victim mentality at the extreme side of that scale, but also an apathetic approach to life where you just kind of let things unfold without having any intentionality in the way that you are interacting with life itself. And so I invite you to develop a more dynamic relationship with the concept of receptivity, because trust is not passive, it's active. And I think that those subtle shifts are very valuable on this journey of self discovery and self realization. The quotes to contemplate for this chapter are: "You must learn one thing the world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong." That was from David White. The second one is: "Forgetfulness and remembrance are partners in the evolution of consciousness," which is a quote from this chapter. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, for going into this deep contemplation with me. I hope that you had some beautiful insights and some aha moments arise while you were participating in this exchange. And until we meet again, be well, enjoy the now. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share your experience with others, and strengthen the community that is developing around the concept of inclusivity.